Hi, Sam here at Model Chile, and here is Bandai's 1/72 scale TIE Interceptor from Star Wars Episode 6. And I've been looking forward to building this for quite a while, but it's been one of those ones that's just sat in the backlog. So I've made room in my hectic schedule to start building and start recording some video. And it's actually the second take because I did have all the parts still in the plastic bags, but the rustling was just driving me nuts. So I've taken all the parts out of the bags so we can have a closer look at them. But to start off, we've got the instructions, and like the A-wing, which I did previously, it's all in Japanese and English, which is quite handy. So fairly straightforward, and a lot of this is quite familiar as I've built the TIE Advanced and the normal TIE Fighter. So it uses a lot of common parts, especially the essential body sections, which we've got there. And it's the stand, slightly different to the other TIE Fighters. Slightly different but the same. And essential body parts here. Let's get some more light in here. That's better. And some new parts for the wing section. I've already tangled up. More body sections and the wing panels. And again, I've noticed this a lot with recent Bandai kits. They include a full pilot figure, but they used to include a full standard version as well. But just lately they've started to include these bizarre cutouts, like a silhouette of a pilot. I'm not actually quite sure why they've done that. Maybe it's just to give it a sense of scale next to the completed kit, but they used to do a full body sculpt, and now they've just sort of cheaped out and started doing these flat versions, which is quite strange. So if anyone knows why specifically they've done that, it'll be quite enlightening. And final sprue, just got the main wing sections there. And clear cockpit parts, which I won't be using. I like to build these to match the studio models, so none of them had windows, so they wouldn't reflect off camera lights and things like that. And finally, the laser bolts and decal and sticker options. Now, unlike the previous TIE Fighters that I've built, I'm not going to be painting these panels. The TIE Advanced and the other TIE Fighters, I painted these, and the end effect was pretty much no different than if I'd just not painted them. And I did run into a few issues with scratching and parts not fitting right with extra layers of paint, so I'm just going to leave these unpainted and then just paint the grey parts with this Vallejo Model Air medium grey, which has got a really nice bluish shade to it, to hopefully match how the TIE Fighters looked in Return of the Jedi. They seem to be a bit more bluish than the TIE Fighters from Episode 4. And so that's that, so let's get building. For the interior sections, I'm just going to be using Vallejo Model Air Medium Sea Grey. So there's the cockpit done, just with the medium grey. Put the decals in and gave it a black wash. And stuck the pilot in, and he's got a couple of decals on his helmet. So now to move on to the middle sections. I've primed these up with Tamiya Surface Primer. Now I'm just going to do a first coat of pre-shading, just using NATO Black. So I put it all together to make the bit easier just to do a single gloss coat over the whole thing. So now it's ready for weathering and decals. And I can just pull this apart now. But there was one slight slip up where some of the gloss coat gathered a bit too much in certain areas, and it's gone a bit wrinkled in certain spots, as you can just see there. So that's just me putting too much gloss coat on. Even after all these models I can still screw it up. But never mind, it's not that noticeable. And hopefully when the flat coat goes down it'll smooth it out a little bit. And I've also added the engine lights at the back, just with a bit of silver and then a bright red over the top. And so now it's time for the decals. So that's the decals done. There really wasn't much to show, just a couple of grey panels here and there. And some tiny strips around the cockpit frame. And now, to start the weathering process, I'm just going to use the trusty old Vallejo light grey wash. And it'll go in all the raised areas. So on here, it always helps to have a gloss surface so it's easier to clean away when it's done. And this Vallejo wash can be washed away with water, so. But I usually use a bit of a thinner just to wipe away the bits that I don't want. So I'm just going to brush over the entire surface. So now just using a bit of acrylic thinner, I'm just going to wipe away some of this excess wash from the flat surfaces and then hopefully retain it in all the recessed areas. Alright, so that pretty much wraps that one up. I've put on a couple of coats of Tamiya's Flat Clear just to seal everything in and get rid of the gloss shine. And I've also salvaged an old TIE Fighter pilot that I had from one of the old TIE Fighter kits. So I've just stuck him on the base there for a bit of scale. And at the risk of sounding like a broken record, I really can't praise these Bandai kits enough. I just think the build quality and the detailing is exceptional really compared to other kits. It kind of makes me feel like I've not really had much input to the final quality of the build. It really is, a lot of it really is down to, back to Bandai. I was going to say Tamiya then, I'm not sure why. But yeah, so I'm really happy with how it came out. The colours and the wash. It's really tricky to get the right balance for these Imperial ships because you can't bash them up too much like the Rebel ships. They've got to look worn but not too weathered. So hopefully my wash achieves that. But let me know what you think in the comments. And I'll just try and get a closer look. I'm still a bit gutted about the overspray with the clear coat. That's wrinkled up a bit of the surface around here, but it's not too noticeable. I mean, I could have sanded it all back and then just completely repainted it, but that would have been a lot of work. I just didn't think it was worth it. And I'm still not quite sure what to think about the new stand approach, where it plugs into the back here as opposed to attaching underneath. It's quite nice to have a difference, but I quite liked having that back section exposed. But there was a way to remove this part and then just use the old stand as normal. But then it kind of just sat, because it's leaning back. If you attached it the old way, sticking straight under the bottom there, it just leaned back a bit too much. It just looks really odd, if that makes any sense. So I've just left it like that. And yeah, so I hope you've enjoyed watching that build. And as always, please let me know what you think. Leave a like or a dislike. I'm always interested to hear your feedback. Or any suggestions, any of the Bandai kits that are out there at the moment. I know there's quite a lot coming out now, all the different figures and different spacecraft, and even some of the landcraft like the speeder bike and the AT-ST. I'm never sure which one to get next really. There's quite a lot of options coming out. But I'm sure there'll be lots of new Rogue One kits coming out soon as well, hopefully. And I thought I'd just do a quick comparison with some of the older kits. So I've got a standard TIE Fighter there, and the TIE Advanced. So you can see here the different colours that I've used. To my eye, the ones in episode 4 looked a lot more of a warmish grey, whereas the ones in episode 5 and 6 were a lot more cooler, sort of a bluish grey. So I mean, the colours are always a tricky thing. People often have different opinions or ideas about what colours they should be, but let me know what you think about the colours, and thanks for watching. So until next time, take care.